We are surrounded by death worshippers in the Obama administration. They're in favor of abortion, euthanasia, in favor of destroying the U.S. Constitution, and we have to maintain our confidence during this horrible time. Obama is a liar. In fact, all through Obama's speech, I kept screaming at the TV, "You liar, you." And when Joe Wilson screamed out, "You're a liar," I felt like giving him a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Did you hear what happened last night? Obama bald-faced lied when he said that the health care reform package will not insure illegal immigrants. I'll tell you why Obama lied. Although perhaps they won't insure them initially, Obama is secretly working to grant amnesty to illegal immigrants. And once he pushes socialized medicine through, tell me what's going to happen when the 30 million illegal immigrants become citizens. Why, presto, they're entitled to all of the benefits of American citizens, and they will get the health care, the free health care that they're not entitled to. So, you know, he was lying. Wilson was right. He should be given a Medal of Freedom for this, but he won't be. The Republicans won't support him because, by and large, they're ducking and covering. So that's one big thing. Play clip one so they know what we're talking about in the Savage
There are also
Nation.
those who claim that our reform efforts would ensure illegal immigrants. This, too, is false. The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally.
Dissent in Congress? That's not permitted when you have fascisti running the country. No. Well, here's a response by a limp-wristed Republican named Boehner on health care, clip 19. Hello, clip 19, anyone?
Illegal immigrants wouldn't get government benefits. But the nonpartisan Congressional Research Service on August 26th says, in part, H.R. 3200 does not contain any restrictions on non-citizens participating in and paying for coverage available through the exchange, whether the non-citizens are legally or illegally present or in the United States temporarily or permanently. And this CRS report makes it pretty clear.
Now, Obama also brought up tort reform for a minute, but he didn't explain what he was talking about. Do you have that clip on the tort reform yesterday? I'd like to hear it if you do. Play it whenever you might be able to dig it up. I know you're all very busy there on the other side of the board. You don't have it? You do or you don't? Oh, okay. See, I have it crack staff here on the Savage Nation. In between sniffing glue and picking their ears. This is unbelievable. How could you not have it? I talked with you about it last night. Unbelievable to me. Just unbelievable. Okay, moving right along. Let's move to clip 13 where Chairman Barack Hussein, Mao Zedong Obama, attacks anyone who disagrees with him in clip 13.
The best example is the claim made not just by radio and cable talk show hosts, but by prominent politicians, that we plan to set up panels of bureaucrats with the power to kill off senior citizens. Now, such a charge would be laughable if it weren't so cynical and irresponsible. It is a lie, plain and simple.
Why? Because you say it is your own brother, Rahm Emanuel's brother, Ezekiel Emanuel, has published papers saying that people 65 years old have lived longer than people 25 years old, and therefore they've had more health care, and therefore they're not entitled to as much health care as a younger person. So, in other words, what is the truth? You decide what the truth is. Now, last night during Obama's infomercial and, let's say self-aggrandizing talk fest, he made some other whoppers that were clearly lies. He said that he was going to look into tort reform. Let's hear it.
Now, I don't believe malpractice reform is a silver bullet. But I've talked to enough doctors to know that defensive medicine may be contributing to unnecessary costs. So I'm proposing that we move forward on a range of ideas about how to put patient safety first and let doctors focus on practicing medicine. I know that the Bush administration considered authorizing demonstration projects in individual states to test these ideas. I think it's a good idea. And I'm directing my Secretary of Health and Human Services to move forward on this initiative today.
Okay, now he's lying for two reasons. He starts by talking about medical malpractice claims, which we all know are out of control. He then says he's going to look into tort reform, and who does he turn it over to? The head of Health and Human Services, Sebelius, who happens to have been the chairman in Kansas of the Trial Lawyers Association of Kansas. Kathleen Sebelius is part and parcel of the problem, not the solution. So for him to say he's turning it over to a trial lawyer to look into getting rid of the trial lawyers is equivalent to saying that he believes in freedom of speech. I'll be right back.
Savage.
Is the Savage Nation. 1-800-449-8255 is the phone number. As the noose tightens around the neck of America's media, it's interesting to me that a New York Times reporter who had been warned repeatedly not to go into this area where the Taliban had a stronghold in Afghanistan would go in there anyway. Being a liberal, of course, he suffers from the mental disorder called liberalism, and he thinks because he's so good, they would understand him. And, of course, they wouldn't hurt him because he was a liberal and he was on their side. Well, of course, he was deranged, as are most of these reporters, especially the type from the New York Times. He goes into the Taliban stronghold, gets captured. The British send in crack commandos, dropped by helicopter. They have a shootout. They save this ingrate from the New York Times. One of the British commandos dies, and the New York Times doesn't even apologize for the death of the British soldier. Instead, they attack the British soldiers, saying that they came in shooting. They almost had a negotiation. Had they only waited, they could have done it for money. How come you use the military? It's astounding to me how deranged liberalism can really be. It really is astounding to me, the danger they're putting us all in. And so, therefore, we go back again to the chief offender, Barack Obama. The man is living in a dream world, and he is a double talker, if not an outright liar. When he says that the health care bill that he's proposing will not aid illegal immigrants, he's lying for two reasons. One, because there's a clause in it that says they may help them. And B, if he gets this bill through, he will then push to have illegal aliens made legal, and then they will be qualified for it, further bankrupting America. Number two, he says he's into tort reform because he knows that's the big 400-pound gorilla in the room. Rein in the lawyers, you could save $500 billion to $1 trillion a year. He says he's going to look into it, but he gives no examples of what he's going to do. And then he says he's going to give it Kathleen Sebelius to look into tort reform when she was the head of the Kansas Trial Lawyers Association. So he's lying every step of the way, lying. Do you understand this, which is why they want talk radio silenced, or they want phonies and talk radio left in the business, why they want fake conservatives on the air as opposed to the real conservatives. They don't even want real liberals on the air anymore. I want to tell you the truth. If you think they want real liberals and real conservatives on the radio, you're mistaken. They want a shadow game of fake liberal versus fake conservative, but basically people who support the structure, the power structure. That's all they want. So there it is. New York, WOR. Jason, go ahead, please.
The exchange was not worth it. A courageous soldier's life was lost for a reporter who went there knowing there were dangers. And what even outrages me even more is that America's national security, or if there was a soldier's life at risk, you better believe the papers would have reported it. But they kept it silent because it was one of their own, and they wanted to protect one of their own. But they didn't care about this nation with all the leaks that they've done, especially the New York Times. It's an absolute disgrace. I feel bad for the family. If I would have been a soldier, I would have refused to go in to protect this vermin. I could not believe it. I'm outraged, and the reaction of the newspaper is a disgrace. And these courageous soldiers' life is
Well, do you remember yesterday I said the headline that the vermin in the AP was running was Taliban free, or wait, New York Times reporter freed by Taliban? You had to read the article to find out that it was that he was not freed, but a soldier died to free him. Could you believe how low the Associated Press has become?
Not only was the soldier died.
The same verminous scum at the Associated Press who will not cover the fact that Michael Savage has been silenced in Britain, the same vermin will not tell you that it was a soldier who died to free the New York Times reporter. By the way, the New York Times reporter was warned over and over again, don't go into that area. You're aware of that, Jason?
I am absolutely aware of it, and I'm also aware of the others on the radio station have not stood up and supported you. These fake so-called conservatives. It's a disgrace. I used to listen to others, but they don't stand up for what's right. And the nation should be backing you. There used to be a time in this country who used to say, I may not agree with you, but I'd die for your right to say it. Where are those people right now protecting you, Dr. Michael Savage?
Well, why don't you ask the wall banger? Why don't you ask the golfer? Why don't you ask the leprechaun? They all wrap themselves in the flag of freedom. Why don't you ask them where they are when they're needed? And I want to remind the golfer, the wall banger, and the lep that when they came for Michael Savage, they didn't raise their voices. They were glad to see me banned in Britain, just as they'd be glad to see me knocked off the radio across America. But they will become for eventually. Trust me, the very same Obama forces will come for them eventually. They don't know that, but they should know that. Don't you think, Jason?